Hello. So let me just ask Rebecca to help me with letting in more students who will be joining us. I need to make a co-host. So Rebecca, you can just help me admit the students who will be in the waiting room. And just make sure you don't allow in any Zoom bombers. So ask your colleagues to use their names when they are signing into the class. So I hope the week was all is moving on quite well for you. On my side, all is well. It's a bit raining from here. I hope we shall be able to handle it very well. So last week, or probably this week, I had shared a document that we shall be using for the weekly reports based on what we bring into the class. So basically, what we study, one way in which we're going to be assessed. Because I remember one of the things we had discussed earlier on was how we shall be assessed, and for example, things like cards, final examination, how are we going to be doing that? So I think I had shared that document. Please confirm with me if I told you it, but I shared with your module leaders earlier on the weekly reports that we're supposed to be making. So idea it's just a small bulletin of what we're supposed to be, what we study in class, what we learn, and any other added information you may come across, probably topics you may be interested in sharing with us in the class. All these are innovative ways in which to make your class fun, enjoyable at the same time, and from that, okay. So, other than that, we shall proceed with receiving our guests of when they are available. And this morning, I will be inviting Dr. Ernest Mwevaze, who is a well-known researcher as well as an enthusiast of machine learning and artificial intelligence, who will be taking us through some of the concepts of AI and existing industry research and whatever is happening within that field. So feel free to ask him as many questions as possible on all your doubts, or probably things you may be interested in knowing and getting to understand, as how AI is being applied in the market, how it's being applied in the industry, how it's being applied from research. So the beauty with him, he's had an experience in working with a university, but more than working with a university, he has also worked in the industry. That is Google. He's been part of Google, the Google AI research. So it's interesting to have someone who has been part in the industry as well as in the research arena, and from there we can get a wide vast place of knowledge and also a fountain from which we can pick from as students who are getting out into the market. But more than that, also those who are interested in joining this particular field. So, being special topics, this is one of the topics that is very much common, and perhaps I would say all of us could be interested in it in one way or another. And the pandemic itself has brought quite a number of changes, with different industries appreciating artificial intelligence. And of course, different systems are used today to collect data here and there. You've heard the talk about big data and things like that. So those are the things we're going to be sharing within this particular class, and hopefully we shall pick a leaf or two from the presentation that we shall have. So I don't know if there are any questions you may be having before we invite him up. We had staged to have him here at about 9:30, so we have about 5 minutes. So in the meantime, we can just do a tete-a-tete, basically touching a bit on how the class is progressing, and in case there's anything that you may want to be clarified or added, or any comments. I think it's better we can have them right now.
This video was inspired by none other than
I don't know if there's any feedback so far as the class is being conducted. Anyone wants to share with us that?
as fast as possible, or even if you can. Apparently, it just grows. Apparently, it's just hard to stomach. So today, not only am I attempting the thick and chug, Morgan is also going to attempt to drink this thick water. When a beverage says nectar.
I will ask Edmund. Edmund, how is your experience with the class so far?
I'd say the experience so far is a bit insightful in the sense that we get to actually hear like firsthand views and experience from guys in the field. So it kind of prepares us for the future ahead.
Okay, very well. Let me pick on Nicole. How is your experience so far?
Okay. Hi. The class is, it's okay. I can't complain. Like, it's insightful.
Okay. Well, it's always good to look back and see how we are progressing. Perhaps some of you may be having challenges in there and we may not be aware of how the situation is. So please do keep me in the know in case there's anything that you may be in need of or something that you might want to be added to the classes that we have. It's very good to have feedback from your end. I would like to recognize I think one of your classmates was nominated for Women in Tech because I think competition or something. Ayan, maybe she can share with us more information about the progress on that and how far we are going. Something I came across in my circles, and I thought it would be very nice to hear from her in our class. Is she part of the class yet? So whoever has more information about this can share with us. Anyone? Roseanne, as module leader, you need to know how your colleagues are faring. How about you tell us more about this competition?
Um, about the competition. Okay,
And whatever is going around it.
I'm not exactly sure what the competition is about. I just know she was nominated.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, please.
She said she's joining, so I think she is in a better position to tell us.
Okay.
She's
So I
joining
think
now.
you can tell her to share with us more.
Okay, I'm here.
Yes, Ayan, hi.
Hello.
We were discussing you in particular before you joined, and we just wanted to know your progress with the competition and how you got there. Perhaps it could be very motivating for the rest of us, and whatever is going on around that competition and what it's about.
Okay. So, okay, let me start with the organization. Okay, like the organization or the network. So it's a network of 210,000 ladies, and it's like an organization that empowers women into women in technology, and it's spread across 183 countries. Apart from that, the headquarters are in Silicon Valley. Yeah, so yes, I think that's majorly it from the network. For me, I just received an email that Anonymous nominated you for for this particular award. So I didn't actually see the email for like 2 weeks. I think voting had started like mid-October, but unfortunately or fortunately, I saw it a bit late, but on Sunday, yeah. So I saw it on Sunday, and yeah, I now decided to share it out with my friends. Um, and I'm quite happy with the progress. So far, I am positive and I have the highest votes. Thank you to all of you who actually voted, who actually shared. I really, really do appreciate, and for making us trend yesterday on Twitter. Thank you so much. So that is it from me.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much for that sharing, Ian. At this point in time, I would like to welcome our special guest, Dr. Ernest Mwevaze. Dr. Ernest, just before you joined in, one of the students was sharing with us her experience and for a competition that she recently joined or she was nominated for, Women in Technology. And it's what she was sharing with us. So let me just show my video. And I'm currently traveling, so don't mind the noise you'll hear from the outside. But Dr. Ernest is, as I mentioned earlier on, is a well-known researcher in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And for a very long time, he's worked in AI applications. One of them that at least I know is one of detecting cassava diseases, which I actually used in my research as well. But he too has also had some experience in the industry that is working in the research team of Google. So feel free to engage him, and I would also like to present to you the students, Dr. Ernest. These are fourth year students who are basically seeing their journey towards the industry. And one of the things that they may pick interest in is how can they best prepare for the industry within this particular realm, as well as sharing more in terms of new topics and new research, cutting edge research, in particular with machine learning. So, Dr. Ernest, over to you. For the students, we can welcome him by using our virtual clap. I hope you can get that from the reactions. So, Dr. Ernest, over to you. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Raymond. Virtual club. These are strange times. Yeah, so it's good to be here. Oh yeah, I see the virtual clubs actually work. See, I'm learning about technology. Yeah, so yes, good to be here. I wanted to share my video, but I've just been jogging, so I'm dripping of sweat. So I'll spare you the virtual stench and keep my video close. So it's good to be here. And let me see how to prepare for the industry, especially in tech. So AI, I've been working in AI for a couple of years now, and it's the trending thing now, generally. And it's interesting the way they recruit. For example, the way Google recruits, so these big companies recruit, is they recruit people who have done maybe IT, computer science, but they also recruit people who have done math, physics now, and now they're even broadening out to recruit people like doctors and engineers, and all manner of people. So people with critical thinking, that's the key thing. But also this field is one of innovation. So AI is sort of like, I get the sense it's like computer science or IT. You can apply IT or computer science in banking, in business, in research, in physics, chemistry. You can apply it anywhere. So it's sort of a tool. And so people harness it differently. And so people from different careers can actually come and partake of that. So that's one thing. So there's almost no exclusion criteria. I guess that's one thing. So one way to prepare for industry, at least the way people have done. So you have to contrast. So one problem we found, especially in Google, when trying to recruit, was that students who tended to be from Africa tended to be less prepared. So not less good. Actually, most of them are quite good, but they just tended to be less prepared for the interviews. And now students in Europe and North America and China, these people specifically prepare for the interviews. So the interviews they're well known. If you go to YouTube, you have to know data structures, you have to know some of your math, you have to know some of your programming. And so in a way, these things are examined. And so one way to prepare for industry is to prepare for the interview. So that's very critical. So you may know, the subject matter very well, you have good grades, everything lines up, but you're not prepared for the interview. And so the interview follows several things. One is critical thinking. Two, there are certain types of problems that you need to think through. And so how do you attack a problem? So people normally want to understand your process of attacking the problem. Things like decomposing the problem, divide and rule. I'm not sure if you've done data structures. Data structures is a big thing if you want to enter the field of AI. But decomposing a big problem into small component parts and then attacking them one at a time. So any problem you can sort of think, this is sort of a paradigm you can think of how to solve it. And this is always an interesting thing for interviewers to ask. Also related to that is this idea of a greedy approach to problem. If you've done a bit of data structure, so the greedy approach is sort of like the greedy algorithm. So you attack you give the simplest solution first, and then you quickly build onto that for more complex solutions. So normally what you tend to find is that you have a very brilliant student comes for an interview, and then you give them a problem, and then they start thinking 100 steps ahead of how to solve it in the most optimum way. And then the time runs out before they actually can do something solid. So the more of the story there is, one, prepare for the industry, prepare for the interviews, prepare for the interviews for the jobs that you want to undertake. Two, have something in your bag. So grades are good, and if you have your paper, that's good. But if you're in computing or IT, one good thing to have is a good GitHub account. So if you have a GitHub account where you've done some projects, especially if you want to go into the field of computer programming or AI or this kind of thing, it's good to have a GitHub account where you've done some, could be demo projects or some of the work you've done at school, you've sort of put it there. That is definitely a good plus. And there are many, many ways you can do that. Some of the things you can do, especially now that you have time, if you have time, is to look at open source projects. Where can you contribute? Or even taking a small open source project now, like Raymond has been talking about, the field of AI. AI has so many demo examples with demo data. You can take that and maybe customize it for whatever you're doing, or even just redeploy it or re-implement it using, using some of the tools, or extend it, increase the accuracy here and there. And if you do that, put it on your GitHub, well documented. This is a good thing to have. Put that on your CV, and most likely you'll get a good review. So interviewers or industry, especially where it's practical, they want to see, okay, what have you actually done? It's very hard to know what you've done just by looking at the grades. So that's another part. So the third thing I would say to prepare, of course, is to have. So there are many online courses now, and many of these online courses they have good projects. That's another way to get your GitHub up and going. Is you can do these projects in online courses. But also you can increase your skills. You can really boot up your skills from these online courses. So universities tend to give you the theory of how things are done, which is exactly what universities should do. But the practice of things, the universities give you a bit, but ideally the practice of things you should get from things like internship or these types of things. But this doesn't happen. So sometimes you have to go out of your way, get a good course which is practically oriented. Do that. If you can go further ahead to get the certificate and attach that to your CV, that's good. If you can get the skills, put them on your GitHub, that's something you can show. That's also positive. So there are ways you can prepare for industry, I guess, in these ways. So I'll sort of leave it there for now and see if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ernest, for that insightful talk, I should say. I'm sure these are some of the doubts that the students usually have in terms of where exactly can I align myself and how do I prepare for this everyday changing world in terms of IT. So I'm sure that we have quite a number of questions from the audience as well as the colleagues we have here on what exactly you may be wanting to find out from Dr. Ernest in terms of what he does, when he does it, how he does it. I don't know. Whatever you want to ask, feel free. So you can just raise your hand and then I can pick on you, or you can unmute yourself to ask the question. Feel free, feel free. Most people actually pay top dollar to have talks with Dr. Ernest. So you enjoying it in this class, I would say, is an honor. So these are opportunities you do not want to miss out on.
Yeah, the bill is coming to you, Raymond.
I hope you shall be able to afford. Any question?
These are students who are doing their final year projects, sort of at that stage.
Yes.
Do they do them in groups or is this individual projects?
Yeah, perhaps they're in a better position to answer. This is a question. I can see a hand up here. You can first answer Dr. Annie's question, and then you can ask your question.
Good morning, Dr. Ernest. First of all, we normally do our groups as individuals. Our projects as individuals. And my question is, could you tell us what it is to be, a day-to-day life as a doctor in artificial intelligence? How it is.
Yeah, day-to-day life. Well, I woke up and went jogging. That's how it is. Yeah, but so maybe I can give you two perspectives because I've sort of worked in these two perspectives. When I graduated, I don't know, 2014, something like that. I joined Makerere University as a lecturer there, lecturing computer science, but doing research in AI. So a lecturer has two options when they join a university, more or less. One, they can teach, they can become really good teachers, which is key. So the university has those three aims: teaching, research, and outreach. So they can focus on research, on teaching, or sometimes get people focus on research and outreach, and then some people blend all the three. But research, so I focus on research and outreach. So by that I mean in AI, we started from the research group, and what basically happens there is you look for problems. We're targeting socially important problems in this context of Africa. So things like you have smallholder farmers can't diagnose disease, or you have people in the labs who can't quickly diagnose malaria, or you have traffic situations that you want to automate, or you have a market scenario that you want to automate with AI, and this kind of thing. So you can look at these problems and then you start doing research in that area. Normally, the day-to-day life is that you look for grants, so you apply for grants, you look for people who can sponsor this research. And with this money, you employ students, you have people come and do PhDs or masters that are paid and do this work for a while. And basically, you take your time doing this research and reaching out. The outreach part of the university is reaching out to maybe government or the organizations in government that can utilize your research. Reach out and give them your research, whatever you've done. If you've automated maybe a diagnostic app for a particular disease, you can go to the agriculture ministry, the departments there, and get linkages to farmers, have them try it out, see if it improves their livelihoods, etc. That's sort of an academic path, which is very exciting, because then the exciting part about that also is that you do cutting edge research, you go to conferences, meet smarter people than you are, and you get more ideas, more connections, etc. The other part which I also did was to work in industry. So after that, I left and went and worked with the UN a bit. Then I also worked with Google. And the life of an engineer there is slightly different. So there you have a particular product that they're interested in, or some research that they're interested in, and then you're working on this as a team. Right? So you hardly ever do anything as an individual. Even in the universities, you could do things as an individual, but also there you tend to have some idea of a team. But in industry, you really work in a team. So you have different things. So in a team, you have people who work on the infrastructure. So what you're going to use, the compute, the memory capacity, the platforms you're going to use to bring in the data, process the data, store the data, run the algorithms. So that's one part of the team. The other part of the team is doing the algorithms. You're writing algorithms, or all of you are writing code. That's for one, for sure. But the people doing algorithms are testing different ways of applying math to solving a particular problem. They're writing algorithms, reading a lot of papers, getting all this information and synthesizing it and making sure this is implemented in code and that it runs on the infrastructure or the architecture, or whatever the other team is doing. Then one other team, of course, one other part of the team could normally you have some sort of leadership, which is doing strategic decisions. So we've worked on this. We've worked on this item of the project, of the problem. It has gone this way. We've reached this side with these results. Should we continue further, going deep, or should we come back and sort of explore other areas? So this sort of exploit kind of decisions. Should we exploit further? Exploit more? Should we explore further? And so you have a team doing that. So as an engineer there, you can be on any part of that team, depending on your interests. But as an AI researcher, if you like me, you tend to be on the algorithm part. So you're really trying to make sure that this algorithm you're writing, this AI software you're writing, is optimal, works the best way it can on the infrastructure you have. So it's cheap, so it doesn't use many resources. So it's optimized. That's why you need to know data structures. So data structures give you different ways of storing data, accessing data in ways that make computation easier. And also you have to keep sort of abreast with what is the state of the art. And so your day-to-day would generally be you write some code, then you do code reviews. So code reviews are all code that is written in a team has to be reviewed by any other person in the team and then checked in. Checked in means you have some sort of version control system where you check in all your code. So your day typically involves around, you have this piece of code, we have this thing I'm going to do today. I write it in, it's reviewed, comments come back, then you either check it in or you test it on the infrastructure you have, and etc. And then sometimes you have to write a paper if results have really been good, or present to the leadership to understand where the project is, what results you're getting. And then the other part of it, which I haven't told you, is interfacing with the end user. So if you're building this for farmers, doctors, then there's that link you have to interface with them and make sure the work you're doing is meaningful to them, etc. So sorry, long story. But in between there, you sort of do exercise, you eat, you sleep, you go out for a beer. Yeah, this kind
The beer is very important.
True.
And just a light joke. Okay. Any other question? I will forgive my students. Some of them are a bit shy. Feel free to also type the questions in case you're not comfortable with speaking. I can pick them up from there.
So maybe one question maybe people can, if there are no questions I can ask. So I was as I said, I was a lecturer, so we always ask questions. But one question would be, what kind of careers are people thinking about right now? I don't know if you can. It'd be interesting if you could sort of type it in the chat, like one like dancer, bartender, or whatever, to get a sense of what people are, which direction people are sort of leaning towards. If there's a question, of course, I'm willing to take it.
Feel free to also unmute yourself in case you. So I see cloud computing, software engineering, system administration. It's amazing. I don't see any data scientist here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we have about 2 data scientists, 2 software engineers, cloud computing, IoT. It's quite interesting actually to find a clear-cut difference between some of these different professions. For example, the difference between big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Sometimes the students usually get confused in the mix and don't really know where to focus or what to do, because they're all similar. So maybe you can share with us with your experience from the industry what differences could be lying within.
Yeah. So that's an interesting question. I see quite interesting things coming up. Interesting questions. Yeah. So those terms. So first of all, the terms keep changing. They change with the times. Big data was a big thing, and then all of a sudden it started getting out of play. Now you have data science, which also is now getting out of play a bit, but it's still there. You have I see IoT, AI, machine learning. So all these things are sort of a mix of things. But generally, for big companies like Google, Microsoft, or Apple, or Amazon, or these kind of things, they distill all these things into something they call an engineer, which is almost related to a software engineer. So knowing your software engineering, I have to say, is very key. Knowing how to program is very key. So whichever career path you take, as someone who has done IT or computer science, all these paths I see, IoT, data science, cloud computing, software engineering. I think one thing you can do to prepare yourself is improve your skills in programming. That's something you can't go wrong. So what people normally look for is an engineer. They don't normally call everything an engineer. So in Google, for example, there are there's a software engineer and then a research engineer, research scientist. Those are the only two positions there. Then the rest are levels, software engineer level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. So you don't have these very specific things like software engineer, or at least in the research part. So engineer, they normally call everything engineering in those big companies. In more smaller companies, then you have things like data scientist, who's someone in charge of data. But data science also encompasses machine learning. So you have to be cognizant of that. So yeah, there are more specific things like DevOps. I saw someone put DevOps, software engineering. So those are very specific things or parts of software engineering that you can capitalize in. So you have different options. One strategy, as people going out in the field, is one, you can either concentrate on something very specific, something like DevOps, or I don't know, website reliability engineer, you do web front end or back end. So I'm a back end person, software engineering. So you can concentrate on one specific thing, and you really become good at that. The other thing is also you can also be broad, like people are saying data science. I want to be a data scientist. So that is broad because it includes people who mangle the data, so data engineers. It includes machine learning people, so it includes AI people. It includes people who do visualization. It includes people who do some math on the data. So it's a broad field. So sometimes you may want to know exactly which part of data science you're keen on. And IoT is, of course, the next big thing coming. So that's quite good.
Maybe feeding from that particular response from you, I see about 4 questions. So I will start with Moses, followed by Rose Ann, and then I'll pick on the 2 questions that are in the chat. So Moses, over to you.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
So I wanted to ask. I was looking at this job, which was basically a data science position at a company, and it had specified the requirements and the roles for that particular position. And while reading the requirements, I find myself in a situation whereby out of the requirements, the requirements are a bit broad. Some are requiring programming, some are requiring mathematics, others are requiring knowledge in visualization softwares. So whereby a person finds him or herself, you have some requirements. For example, you've done some units in mathematics, you've done programming, but the softwares that they're asking for visualization, you've not interacted with them. So you've met some qualifications and others you've not met. In such a position, would you still advise somebody to apply? And in that scenario, what will be the actual chances of qualifying? And
Yeah,
that's my
so
question.
so the short answer is apply. So it's really, just to give you some context. When I was in Makerere University, we had Microsoft come to recruit students from us, fourth year students, and they came and asked people to apply. And it was shocking. Hardly anyone applied. I think there were just countable people who applied, 10 or so. And the question was, why aren't people applying? And people tended to think they are not capable of doing these jobs, or they somehow immediately disqualify themselves from this job. So I think one thing is, don't disqualify yourself from a job. That's one thing. So put in the application. So some things you can learn on the job, others you can learn in 2 days. So for example, if they tell you some experience in a visualization software like Tableau, or I don't know, Power BI, whatever it is, I mean, you can download that tool and take the next 48 hours and get some experience in the tool, quote unquote. So there are ways you can bootstrap these things. So these sometimes the people write these. So I think what you really want to do with these job applications is you want to get into the interview room and you want to be prepared for that interview. So not to tell lies, of course, if you don't have programming experience in C++, you can't get that in 2 days. But if it's something simple, relatively easy to do in a week that you can, put all your guns on it, you can do it. You've done much harder things. Visualization software. I mean, things like working with the software, those ones, surely you can learn that overnight. So those ones you can apply. For that, I would definitely apply. You have some math, you have some programming, the visualization, I definitely would advise you apply. Because what they want is people, you want to get in the interview room. And once you get there, you want to make sure you shine. So without telling lies, you can still put in your application. So just one broad thing, I think what we saw even just working in Google, rarely anyone applies for these jobs. Yet they're looking for people to do these jobs. They're looking for, even when they're custom built, they want someone from the context in Africa. You hardly get any Africans applying because students fear these jobs for some unknown reason. Yet when you go in and you find the people doing these jobs, it's really the basic type of jobs it's really basic. Some of the jobs are really basic. The things that you already know and you can easily do. And then most of it is really learning on the job. No one expects you to know the visualization software in and out, but they expect you to have the ability to learn quickly on the job. So short of it, apply for the biggest jobs you can.
Okay, next we can hear from Rose Ann.
Okay. So personally, I'm interested in data science, or even like that's the path I want my career to take. And I'm thinking of doing a master's in data science. How important do you think that is?
So a master's is definitely important. So the considerations of when you do the master's is now the other thing. So do you do it immediately after school? Do you do it after getting some work experience? So normally for data science, people want to see some sort of application. As I said, people want to see your GitHub mostly. If you have a master's degree, a paper, and someone has a really good GitHub account with a lot of stuff they've done, they are likely to take the job over your paper. So that's the very important thing. So the master's degree is definitely important. But you could try and stagger it after you've done some practical work. In the event that you finish, you've applied for some jobs, you've done some stuff of your own, jobs are not coming, definitely jump into the master's straight away. But if you could get a job before, get some idea of what's in the industry, what to master in, it's very important.
Okay, because you see the way you say that people are not applying for these Google jobs and stuff. Like, for example, Google recently, the Google in Kenya recently posted like jobs. They're looking for like a research intern, and then they need a PhD for that job, like a research intern. So I feel like the reason why personally I don't apply for these jobs is because um the requirements usually require, like, for example, a master's degree or a PhD in these things.
Yeah, that's
Or you are all jobs for data scientists, like that you can see, because most of them usually need someone to have experience, but you can't get experience if no one takes a chance with you.
Yeah, that's normally unfortunately that's the problem with some of these jobs, that they need experience. But so one thing maybe I would encourage you to do. One is join the community of data science. There are different communities. There's Data Science Africa. There's Deep Learning Indaba. There's all sorts of communities there. I think there's AI Girls or something like that. There are all these communities of people who are enthusiasts in data science who are doing these things. So one key thing is to join them. From there, you get contacts. That's very important in order to jump over these hurdles of you need experience, etc. Two, make sure you have some experience. If you can't get it on the job, get it by yourself. Do a bunch of projects, self projects. You can see what different people are doing. Rack up something, GitHub, get a good web page with some of your projects there. That normally is really good experience, especially if you're handing your thing for a job. 3, if you have, of course, the time and the money, you can enroll in a master's just to bootstrap some of those disadvantages that, while you're doing the master's in the evening, whatever, you can still hustle and look for a job to cover all grounds. Otherwise, yeah, I understand that some of those requirements, PhD, masters, they kick you out even without giving you a chance to show your skill. The world is hard.
Surely it's never a smooth path. Thank you very much for that. I can see our time that I had slotted out for us is getting limited. I don't want to build another more dollars. Let me just take the last 2 questions and then we can release you. So there's a question from the chat room from Miriam. While working with Google, how is working in tech with a multinational different from in-house companies?
Yeah, so multinationals, you get so there are pros and cons. The pros are you get exposure. That's the thing. You get to meet so many people who are much smarter than you, who are really smart at doing what they do. You get to learn a lot because you meet smart people. You also have this international outlook. So different people in different countries are doing things differently. They have a different set of problems they're tackling, or different way they tackle different problems. So you get that international exposure. So that's, you also have the ability to move. Yeah? So you can travel between different offices, or to go here for 2 years, there for 2 years. So if you're relatively mobile, you can actually it can be a good experience. So in-house is the cons of that, of course, is that it's international, so you can be too big, can be too overwhelming. Sometimes you can get lost in there. You can fall through the cracks, which can be a problem. Also, these big multinationals, normally you're doing something very specific. You're doing something very limited and very specific. That's why they become really good at what they do. So, which is a bit of a problem. Also, the other thing is that normally these big companies also use their own in-house tools. So you can spend 10 years and you come out and you're still not caught up on a lot of things, because all the tools they use for programming, platforms they use for version control, everything is done in-house. And so you may have experience in things which you can't use outside the job. So the beauty of working with a small company in-house is that normally it's bootstrapping tools that are being used everywhere. You also get the chance to do multiple things. You will be the data scientist, you'll be the person who talks to the client, you will be the programmer, you'll have to do things in the database, you'll have to do something in coding, the algorithm, etc. So you may be able to do multiple things, which is an advantage, because then you learn multiple skills. The problem is sometimes you can get lost in the big world and not concentrate.
Okay, thanks for that. And then the second one was, what are the available career paths after this degree? This is from Jaden. I don't know which particular degree you are talking about, but I don't know if Dr. Ernest, you have anything to say about this. I feel this was answered in the discussion earlier on.
Yeah, I think I hinted on it. So this degree it's not like medicine. This one is quite open. It's like a tool, so you can actually do anything. You can go into medicine. You can go into geology. You can do anything. IT can apply to anything. So some strategies could be to look for niche places where you can work that are unexplored. So you can go and do something in fisheries, for example, and say, I'm looking for a niche in fisheries IT, and you may be the only one. And it may be slow start, but you may make it big in the future. But I think you can do any career, anything from this.
Okay, so let's take the last hand. That's from Jaden as well. This should be the second question he's asking. So Jaden, over to you.
I just wanted to ask about the second question I had in the chat about where you see the industry heading in the next couple of years or of next 5 to 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, so that's normally a hard question, but I think there is a sweep of AI and machine learning that's quite big, and there's even a bigger wave coming is the wave of data and data privacy, data security. With all this fake data, fake news, there's a huge field opening up there in security and sort of creating better algorithms and better systems. So in terms of IT, I see, computing, I see definitely working AI and IoT becoming a big thing. But also, what do they call it? Miniaturization. Things are becoming smaller, etc. So IoT is also looks like it's going to pick up this Internet of Things. I suppose it's going to be a big thing, getting things more automated, smaller, pluggable, and etc. So I think those would be the big things. I think the traditional things like a data warehouse manager, database admin, those kind of things may become less and less as people sort of go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that. There's a question I had skipped from Victor. He's just reminded me. And his question was between Python and Java or even C++, which is the most commonly used programming language for deep learning algorithms? Because he had noticed that people preferred C++ due to performance issues. With your experience, Dr. Ernest, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, so historically or previously, C++ was the big thing. So even most of the code, for example, in Google, the largest portion of it is in C++. But you hardly ever get people writing C++ for deep learning, because also Python actually is built over C++ and C. So it has been bootstrapped to gain some speed advantages from that. So Python is being used quite a bit. And also you're having frameworks, TensorFlow, PyTorch, that have optimized the use of Python. So they have under the hood all these, C++ or C, and they've optimized speed. So the advantages of C++ are sort of minimized. So people are sort of pivoting towards Python because easy to prototype, easy to build, easy to learn, easy to quickly iterate over. You don't have to compile things and etc. So I would hone in on Python as language for the future, but definitely Java and C++ if you want to do other things, Android programming and frameworks and things like that.
Okay, thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of our discussion with Dr. Ernest. I would like to invite this time round Roseanne to give us the closing remarks, as well as appreciating our guest for having spared his precious time to share his knowledge with us. So, Roseanne.
Oh, okay. I want to thank you for taking your time to come and talk to us. It has been very beneficial. It has been very beneficial to my classmates, and especially me, considering I also want to get into the line of like data science, artificial intelligence. Yes, and yeah, I hope you could come back another time. Yes.
Great, thank you. It's been great having you, and the questions, great questions. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. At this point in time, I can release you to perform other duties.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye bye. All right. Very well. Very well. So that was a very insightful session. I hope you learned a lot and also picked an idea or two from the discussion we've just had. Yeah. So at this point in time, I don't have anything else prepared for you in this particular session. I would imagine that all that we wanted to learn, it would be very good to invite an expert to share with us. So it was highly dependent on the kind of questions you ask. And I wouldn't say we can cover everything at a go, but at least it's good to really understand what exactly or where exactly we would like to end up, and in regards to the industry and things rotating around that. Yep. So, yep, that's it for today. I don't know if there's any other question from anyone. But for some reason, I find you very quiet. So why is it? Why is this the case? Has this always been a quiet class? Or you guys are shy amongst each other? I would imagine it to be very lively and you asking questions and wanting to learn more. Maybe it's something we need to research in. We need to start collecting data. For those of you who are getting into the field of data science, we need to do a research on this. And by the way, in case there's anyone who is interested in machine learning related research, there's a project that is currently running. We would like to do a study on student performance, basically predicting student graduation, and eventually based on their historical data, that is their background, things to do with financial background, academic background, their current performance, attendance in class. So those are different variables that we are using. So in case you're interested in that, you can write me an email or let me know, and then we can do some work together. Okay. So based on what we've discussed today and what we've had, I'm going to set up a special email because the AMS has not yet been cleared for this particular unit, as well as the e-learning, which I thought by now would have all these things ready. So I'm going to set up a special email where you can send me the weekly reports, because that's one way in which I'll be using to assess you, as well as to note attendance. Yeah. Today we've been very few compared to the usual numbers. Okay. All right, good people. Take care, stay safe, and keep well. Okay, so there's a suggestion here. If possible, I would ask that I inform you on the kind of speaker I will receive beforehand. Okay, well, I would have loved to do this, but sometimes confirmation comes in late from the speakers. So as of next week, I expect to have Microsoft personnel. Okay, these are software engineers from Microsoft. So maybe you can prepare questions around software engineering. A particular field is Microsoft. So yeah, but if the confirmations don't come in, we can adjust and have whichever speaker is ready. So that's the only challenge I'm having at the moment. I mean, these are very busy people, and getting them on a weekday, mostly in the morning, can be very challenging. It's not like a weekend where you can just bombard someone for a conference and then they can show up. So it's the current struggle that I'm currently having. But yeah, at least today I've informed you on what we expect next week. So software engineering, Microsoft is the industry from which they come from. So we can prepare around there. So you can go dig up some information so that we can have a more interactive discussion. It's very important that we interact and make the session lively, even for our guests. Okay, even for our guests. I don't want this to be a lecture where we come and one person speaks and everyone is taking down notes. It's always good to have discussions, case studies, something you've experienced, and things like that. So let's go with that. In case you have any suggestion, let me just write my email. I thought I had shared that with you earlier on. Strathmore. Yeah, so you can send me any feedback on that email. In terms of the recordings, let me just finalize with the e-learning, and then I'll upload all the recordings that we've had in the class so far. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very nice day.